This is my lab report for experiment 1, the tape experiment for physics 2212 by Magee. The purpose of the experiment was to find the charge of a charged piece of tape using the gravitational force and electric force and understanding the relationship between the gravitational force and the electric force. In the experiment, Newton's second law of force is being used to state that the gravitational force is equal to the electric force, since the charged piece of tape is motionless and therefore has a zero net acceleration. Coulomb's law is used to find the electric field, and then the interaction between the electric field and the electric force is applied to find the charge of the piece of tape. Also, the piece of tape was concluded to have a positive charge. So during the experiment, when one piece of U-tape interacted with another U-tape, it was repelled. But when interacting with a book and a negatively charged pen, it was attracted to both of them, and therefore the tape was positively charged. In the experiment, the piece of tape was 0.199 meters and had a mass, therefore had a mass of 1.99 times 10 to the negative 4th kilograms. The gravitational force is equal to mass times acceleration due to gravity, which was equal to 1.99 times 10 to the negative 4th kilograms times 9.81 meters per second squared, which therefore equals negative 1.95 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons. The separation distance is 0.025 meters, and the charge of tape was found to be equal to the square root of the force due to gravity times the distance squared times 4 pi epsilon naught, which is equal to the square root of 1.95 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons, times 0.025 meters squared divided by 9 times 10 to the 9th newtons meters squared per coulomb squared, which was equal to 1.16 times 10 to the negative 8th coulombs. The magnitude of the electric force was equal to the magnitude of the gravitational force, and therefore was 1.95 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons. And then the electron deficit was equal to the charge of the piece of tape divided by the charge of electrons, and was therefore equal to 1.16 times 10 to the negative 8th coulombs divided by 1.6 times 10 to the 19th coulombs, which is equal to 7.28 times 10 to the 9th. This is a free body diagram of the piece of tape. This with the force to the electric force being up due to the similarly charged piece of tape repelling it upwards, and then the force due to gravity being pointing down. This is the setup for the experiment. A piece of charged tape was placed on by two books and was charged by this piece of tape attached to the table, and then another piece of charged tape also charged on this piece of tape was moved up so that the piece of tape would move upwards. This is the model created by in GlowScript. The red sphere represents the piece of tape on the books being repelled upwards. The green arrow is the force due to the electric field, while the blue arrow represents the force due to gravity, and then the white sphere represents the point charge for the second piece of charged tape, pushing this first piece of charged tape up. Also found was that the mass of the piece of tape was 0.1992 grams. The distance separating the two pieces of tape was 0.025 meters. The force of gravity was equal to negative 1.95 times 10 to the negative 3rd newtons. The charged piece of tape was 1.164 times 10 to the negative 8 coulombs. In creating the model, there were assumptions made to find the electron deficit. One assumption made was that the tape did not experience drag when being lifted, which would have affected the force due to gravity, and just the net force in general. Another assumption was that that each piece of tape was treated as a point charge, with the charge being in the center instead of individual particles in a line experiencing each other's electric fields. And then it was also assumed that the piece of tape, the two pieces of tape had the same net electric charge, and if they didn't, it would be different. The magnitude of the charge found by the model of the pieces of tape was 1.16 times 10 to the negative 8 coulombs. And then also found is if the electrons had positive charge and protons had negative charge, then the tape would be have a negative charge, since the positive electrons would be removed. Neutral items such as the book and hand would still be attracted to the piece of tape, and they would be polarized, but the positive charge pushed towards the tape, and then a negatively charged pen would be repelled by the tape. It was important to handle the charged piece of tape as low as possible, because the more it was handled, the more likely the tape would be grounded and therefore lose its charge and then not be able to be pushed up. And then that is the end of my lab report.